Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. Make sure to check in the description notes below the video where you will find links to all of my online shenanigans, including how to get my patterns to knit up for yourself, how to join the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group, how to support me on Patreon, and how to buy Watch Barbara Knit merchandise. Today for you we have a pattern tour. A pattern tour is a video I make when I have a new pattern to release that I want y'all to see in action. You know, I do my very best to take good photographs of the pieces that I create, but I do know that still photographs can only convey so much information. So I like making these pattern tours where I can talk to you about the ideas behind it and what I'm trying to do, and you can actually see the movement and the drape of the piece and maybe get a better idea if this is something that needs to be in your or a loved one's wardrobe. It is right here. If you have been following me on Instagram or come to one of my end of the month YouTube lives, you've actually seen this in progress, and now it is ready for y'all to take a look at. So the name of this shawl is Rev It Up, R-E-V-I-T-U-P, and it refers to its reversibility. That's the rev part, but also it is, like many of the names of my pieces, a reference to a song. This particular song is an unreleased song performed at a concert by one of my favorite artists, so odds you aren't going to know it. But Rev It Up. And I'm pretty excited about this one. It was a very comforting, easy knit. It only has knit, purl, slip with slip, slip, knit to create the bias. Slip, slip, knit paired with yarn overs to create the bias. And in a way, it is a kind of marriage of two concepts from two of my more recent patterns. So this slip stitch detail that you can see on here that creates this really cool texture uses a technique that I came up with for my scarf, A Good Scarf. And the other element is impulse buy. It is the same shape as my shawl, impulse buy, and had the same idea that I wanted to make something that was a very flexible, open-ended piece that could be knit with a wide variety of yarns, yarn weights, and a wide variety of yardages. Like it can be made bigger or smaller and things like that. Now, my goal with this is that just like a good scarf, or there's a piece of fuzz on it, go with fuzz. Just like a good scarf, this is completely reversible. Now, if you go on Ravelry and look at the reversible category, like if a designer can click off reversible, it says that reversible means that either side could be considered the right side. And by that, it's that they don't necessarily have to match each other. It's just that it has to look good on both sides. And there are some stitches that really look good on both sides, and it's definitely, you don't really get a wrong side. But this is not that kind of reversible. This reversibility, and what I was going for, is this shawl looks exactly the same on both sides. It is truly reversible in that you cannot tell what is the right side and what is the wrong side. Because there isn't a right or a wrong side. There is one tiny detail that if you look incredibly close, you can tell that on the edge it's a slip slip knit on one side and a slipped stitch on the other side, but it's hard pressed to see. So this, when you put it on, regardless of how you throw it on, there's never a bad side. It is 100% reversible. It looks the same on both sides. It's just that so it depends on, so if you want the triangle on this side, you can do that. But if you want the triangle on this side, so it takes the asymmetricalness of it and makes it a little bit more flexible. But you see how I just threw that on here? But you can see we've got a right side and a wrong side, visible, but there's no wrong side. So that is what this was all about. And another element that I really wanted to make sure is that this is a unisex piece. I wanted to create a piece that was very much not masculine, not feminine, just completely unisex. Anyone can wear this. If you guy or gal or non-binary pal, this is for you. You can, and honestly, it's entirely up to your color choice. If you want to skew it in one direction or another, your color choice is where that is going to happen. So this is Rev It Up. It is a sport weight. It is knit on a size 6 needle, and you can see the drape that we're getting here. Now, I blocked it due to the dominant garter stitch with the slip stitch motif. This will lay entirely flat if you don't block it. It doesn't have to be blocked, but it will be substantially smaller if you don't block it. So if while you're knitting it, you really like the texture, and let me tell you, one of the reasons it took me so long to knit this is because I had to stop and squish it all the time. It gets a really amazing corrugated texture, but that also has to do with the yarn. We'll talk about that. But you can definitely, if you really didn't want to block it, then you could not, but it's going to be way smaller. You might want to knit more of it because you could make it bigger and not block it. It just depends on what you want to do. But you can see it is a good size shawl. Look at there. I'm going to put her back up here. There we go. Let's scooch it over. There you go. You can see it. Let me get you the specific details. So yes, I said a US size 6 needle. You're going to want a circular needle that's at least 32 inches long because, oh, and size 6, which is 4 millimeters for those non-imperials. And then my finished size of my piece was the fall, it's 14.5 by 67 the wingspan, and that's 37 by 170 centimeters. So the first was inches. And again, the stitches involved are knit front back, purl, slip knit, slip with yarn in front, slip with yarn in back, yarn over. That's pretty much all that's going on. It is an entirely written pattern. There is not a chart. You have a, let's see here. We'll have the setup. You have a 22 row setup, which gets you up to 15 stitches. And so it goes pretty fast. And once you have your setup, you have a 10 row repeat to create those vertical columns. And you simply repeat those 10 rows over and over and over again until it's the size you want, or you're almost ready to run out of yarn. And what you want to do there is you need to make sure you have enough yarn, like keep track of like how your rows are consuming your yarn, and you want roughly 3 times the length of the space that you want to bind off. That's how much yarn you need left. Now, I got the size I got, and this is how much yarn I had left. Whenever I design, I do my very best to leave some yarn on the table. Usually it's about 10%. So I have this little ball left, this little guy. I stopped and left this, I think it's 19 grams. So I stopped and left this on the table because I know that people don't do gauge swatches, and I want them to be able to achieve what I've achieved with a minimum of fuss. So I could have probably gotten maybe another inch out of this. By the time you get to those final rows, it's really chewing up your yardage, but you can push this as far as you want. And I did. Here's the needle. I always leave this in my bag just to make sure that I have it all right for the pattern publication. So it is a size 6 needle. This is my bag. And what you need to do, and as I said, this pattern is very flexible. You could knit it in fingering weight yarn. You could knit it in DK weight yarn. You could knit it in worsted weight yarn. You could probably even do it in a bulky weight yarn. But I'm going to give a but, you're going to have to change the needle side, and you're going to have to find what gauge is going to work for you to get the fabric that you want. Now, the pattern I vary because it's kind of difficult to measure gauge in this pattern because of the combination of garter and slip stitches. So it's actually a fairly sizable chunk on how to do your gauge swatch for this pattern if you're so inclined. And so I give you the texture pattern. So what you would want to do if you are going to change your yarn weight is to do your gauge with that texture that I've provided and see if you can achieve a fabric that you like. You're probably going to have to go up a needle size or two based on what you normally would use. But again, that depends on your yarn. If you're adventurous, you can totally change it up. And again, you're going to need more yarn. So let's, do I have any other details that I need to include? You can stop it pretty much on any row because it's just a very consistent pattern. It really doesn't matter. Weave in ends, wet block. That's what I've got, and that's what I did. Now, let's talk about yarn. So, this particular piece was done in collaboration with Miss Babs, one of my absolute favorite dyers, and she provided me with the yarn to make this shawl as yarn support because this is a brand new yarn from Miss Babs. It is called Laurel Falls. And let me go to here we go. So, and let me hide that. Okay, you couldn't see that, but I couldn't. It was covering up what I was doing. So, Laurel Falls is a sport weight yarn created with soft American Shanico merino wool. And this is a very special American yarn. I'm not going to go in depth into it in this video because since this is a new yarn, I think I'm going to, if I can find my yarn, because I have more yarn around here, I'm going to do a swatch lab for this yarn because it has some really interesting characteristics. But if you want to go to the Miss Babs website, I will put a link and you can go learn more about the Shanico merino wool on her blog, which is really cool. The skeins are 100 gram skeins with 300 yards or 275 meters per skein. And for this pattern, you need two. That's what I used, is 2 to get it long because it's sport weight. And so it's 100% superwash Shanico merino wool. And you see they said knit on a 3 to 5 or knit on a size 3 to 5. I knit on a 6 to open it up a little bit for it being a shawl and for the drape I wanted. And it is, again, I'm going to do a swatch lab. This is a really great, beautiful yarn that I spent time with trying to figure out what it liked best. And if you watched last week's video, the amazing thing about this is the stitch definition on this yarn. It has absolutely beautiful stitch definition, which is why I ended up doing this detail. This ridge really, really pops because of the stitch definition of this yarn. Is a nice, round, bouncy yarn. I also very deliberately selected a dark color yarn for this so that y'all could see that it can handle the darkness, because not all patterns, texture patterns, can handle the darkness, but you really can do it on this. I also very deliberately selected a color that skewed a little bit more towards the masculine side because I have found that it is easier for knitters in general, like knitters don't have any problem looking at a piece that is modeled on a man and imagining what it would look like in a more feminine color. They don't have a problem flipping that switch because it's something that we just, it's, I don't know why. I don't know why. But if it is modeled on a woman, in general, knitters have a difficult time flipping the switch in the other direction to visualize it being more masculine. So I always try to choose a more masculine leaning color. And I actually, so I can show you this, I photograph it on my partner. This is him, and you've probably seen him before if you've looked at any of my patterns. If it's modeled on a guy, this would be the guy, unless it's in one of my books. And so this is one of the photos, and I very deliberately like twisted the shawl so that you can see that it's just put on, but it is reversible and it looks great. And then this is the shape of it. And then again, this shows the reversibility of it. It's the same on both sides. Now, the color I used, let's go down, is right here. It is Sagrada is the color I chose. It is this dark kind of purpley color, and I always try, as I said, I try to select colors that are more to the masculine side, but I also don't like going with like a stereotypical masculine color like black or brown, because I personally, especially male knitters, I don't think that they particularly are that direction. But and also a lot of people don't like knitting with black because it's a challenge. So I asked, so this is Sagrada, that's the color I used. I asked Miss, and look at this moss. Oh my gosh, love it. I asked Miss Babs people to suggest some non-traditional colors that would be non-traditionally masculine. And they suggested Tempo, which I think is absolutely beautiful. Again, when you think of blue for a masculine color, typically people skew to navy blue, like a dark navy, and this one has a much brighter feel to it. This is Rainforest, absolutely lovely. Dark Andromeda, I love this kind of brick red. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then Bougainvillea, which is this I think has a very similar feel to the Sagrada, but while this is more of a blue purple, the Bougainvillea does definitely skew a little bit towards the pink side. But I think it also has the same vibe as the Sagrada does. So that is, and then we've got all these gorgeous here. I love looking at yarn. I don't know. I think the pattern would be okay with something variegated like this. It is going to obscure the detail a little bit, but it's such a bold detail that I think it will be fine. I think this might be too much, the deep sea jellyfish, but I love deep sea jellyfish. This Starry Night. So just beautiful, beautiful colors on this really nice, bouncy yarn that I really like. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's a babette, which means that when it's gone, but absolutely gorgeous. So that is the yarn. Let me reopen so I make sure. That is the yarn, and this is Rev It Up. I cannot wait to see what y'all make. Definitely, if you're in the Facebook group, if you decide to make this, link to it and like put pictures, and maybe we can talk about yarn choices if you want to. If you're on Instagram, tag me on Tumped Duck if you decide to make this. I would love to watch along as they grow. I'm really excited about seeing it in different yarn weights. I think a single skein of Yowza would be amazing. That is a DK weight from Miss Babs, or any of the, it would work great in any, I mean, everybody has a skein or two of fingering weight laying around, and I think it would be fine in fingering weight. It's not going to be quite as impactful as this, but, and let me pull this off again so you can see. As I said, it is dark, but that motif, that texture, that corrugated texture really pushes through the dark color. So I definitely think it could handle a decent amount of variegation too. But this is it. So I'm excited. I hope you like this new pattern. I'm excited about it. And watch next week for the swatch lab. Hopefully I will get it done. If not, it will be like in the next week. Okay. So if you like this video, if you want the pattern, there will be a link in the description notes below to both my website and to Ravelry for you to grab a PDF for you to knit it up for yourself. I probably should have mentioned that a long time ago. I'm not great at this whole marketing thing. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, click that like button. And if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Thank you so much.